Thermal Thunder out of Belford, Nebraska.
Petch, Thermal Thunder.
Here it comes.
Now some folks might...
The big old rock.
Hey folks, Ron Stone here. Welcome everyone to Outlawed Live with Ron Stone. Usually have Jason Schultz here with me, but he's on another vacation down in Florida, I think. So it's just going to be me tonight and my friends from Nebraska, the Petch crew, the Thermal Thunder modified pulling tractor. We may have Josh in here a little bit, Josh Runyon. Not sure if he's going to be able to come on. He works some weird hours, so we might have him in here a little bit as well. Maybe a couple other surprise visitors, who knows? But want to welcome the Petch family. We got Fred, Kyle, and Case. And how you guys doing tonight?
Great. Pretty good.
Good to see you guys. Fred, great to see you. Haven't seen you in a while.
I don't get out a lot.
You sticking pretty close to the house these days?
I have been. I'm starting to sneak away.
Yeah. I'm going to turn my volume up here a little bit so I can hear you. So we're running a series called Young Guns, and we're also running a series called the Legends series. So kind of tying it all together. Kyle, you kind of fit right in the middle here.
Oh, that's kind of what I was wondering. You said you want to do this Legends and Young Guns thing, and I was talking to Case, and I'm like, well, I guess I'm in the middle somewhere. I really don't know what I am.
You're here for moral support. Of course, Fred is the legend, and Kaysen is the up-and-coming new driver, I understand, of Thermal Thunder. Is that what we're going to see this summer?
That's correct. He's been looking forward to this, and you know, I don't know if I'm ready to give up the seat yet, but I'm definitely, you know, watching the tractor go down the track there. One of the things I'm looking forward to. I've never actually seen that thing go down the track, so you know, there's going to be something new for me in this as well.
Yeah, that's cool. You can probably make some observations to even make some corrections, even, you know, watching it go down the track, like you said, watching Kaysen drive it. So, Kaysen, you looking forward to it?
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Now, have you driven any kind of pulling tractors or anything in the past?
No, I've driven it around the yard just being towed around, but that's been about it.
Yeah. How much horsepower does this tractor make, Kyle?
We're around the 4,500 range, you know.
That's
so
with the water injection?
That's with the water in there. So
okay. I'd heard Fred mention there a couple years ago at Rock Valley, that little video montage I put together. He mentioned it was making about 3,750, and I remember you telling me 4,500. I thought I bet that's before the water.
You know, it's there's some different things you can do to them, and you know, the water's what the thing you can do to it. It helps maintain some horsepower in there.
Yeah, the 3750 is the stock rated military horsepower out of the Chinook helicopter.
Okay, this is a T55, correct?
Yes,
that's correct.
Okay, how many different engines were there in that series? Was that the only one, or?
There's a few different ones, like the 55. We're not going to go into great detail here with turbine mechanics and all that, but there's some that start out that had like a single gas producing wheel in them and a single compressor wheel in them that would drive the compressor section. And then there's a couple models of those. And then we're running an L11D, and that starts to double up your gas producing wheel in there. And that's part of how they start increasing some of the horsepower in those engines and the different models that they come along. So I believe there's about 4 or 5 different models. Once you start getting past the one we've got, there's one more, but past that you start getting in, the engines get electronic fuel controlled, where ours is still have mechanical fuel control on them. So.
Okay. Fred, have you ever driven the tractor?
Not this one. I drove the old one with the T-53 in Nebraska bush a couple times.
Okay.
So
now what's the story behind the yellow paint? I know, Fred, are you a Mini Mo fan? Is that why the tractor's yellow? Or
at that time we weren't really, well, we pulled Minneapolis Moleens. That's the very first thing I did. I think it was, we just pulled the color book out, and that's what we ended up with. I think we was originally going with a blue or a red, and when we walked out of the paint store, it was yellow. So that's kind of where we ended up at. We looked at a lot of different ones, and so we kind of figured if it's dark out, you can see the thing out there in the pit area. You can find your tractor.
So give us a little history rundown of the tractor. Fred, we can start with you. I mean, how did you get into pulling, and how did you, what did you start pulling with, and how'd you end up where we are now?
Back when I graduated from trade school, I worked for a local farmer dealership for about 6 months before I went to the University of South Dakota. And it came county fair time, and 2 guys rolled in with a couple 806 Farmalls, and one of them turned up for the county fair, which I guess they do every year. So I did that. I run them through on them. One of them I changed the turbo out, and the one gentleman said later on, he said, would you like to go to the pull? I'd never had really ever been to a tractor pull. And so I went. So that's probably where I got started interest wise. Then in about 77, Kyle was real little back then. I had a friend of mine was actually farming some of my dad's farm ground, wanted to take a tractor to the county fair. So I was doing the same thing for him. We were lighting it up, putting the stamp press wheels and all that on. And I decided, well, I've got an old 5-star Moline at home, kind of in the tree row. I think I'll just dig that out for the heck of it. And that's how we got started in 1977. Then 78, 79, we run with just a small group we put together down here in southeast Nebraska, mostly county fairs. 1980, we upped it, was getting a little more serious. 81, I made some major changes to it, inline pump, different type of turbocharger. We had that old 4-cylinder running about 4,200 RPM. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. We were running a hot farm class at 5,000, 5,500 pounds. And the following year, I got with 2 other guys, and we got a D21 and went up into the 7,500 and 9,000 pound classes. And we had small turbos back then, Ron. We weren't even the size of a super farm in the beginning. We were looking at a compressor wheel of 2.85 inches. A lot of the guys were using 1480 combine stock 3LD chargers or an LM. So we run that tractor. I had the partners one year. Kyle and I run that tractor from 83 to 95. Kyle, what year did you start driving? Because I never got back on again after that.
1992. I turned 16, and that point is a little where we started to shift a little bit. I think Dad drove a couple times after that, but it was pretty much I started driving at that point.
Yeah, I liked watching them. So we kept that tractor till 95, and then I had an accident with my back, and doctor said, you got to kind of get rid of everything. So that was a good thing for Kyle, because I think you ended up driving 3 different tractors after we sold ours.
Yeah, I kind of, had a wide experience there from pro stocks to diesel super stocks to unlimited super stocks, alcohol tractors, and it had a couple interesting years in there. Had a lot of great people, Dennis Johnson, Haug family that gave me some rides in there. Randy Herbert with High Plains Raider diesel super stock, Rick Barrett, Wampus Cap pro stock fame. Had a chance to drive all those tractors. So, really us, selling that tractor in 95 for me, yeah, you hated to see it go, but it opened up a lot of great opportunities and experiences that I wouldn't have had otherwise, probably.
Yeah.
Then in 98, we bought a turbine tractor that we run for 1 year, and then we had to completely rebuild it, Ron. Then after that, we built 3 more. I was kind of taking a look into that. The tube chassis that we made the transition from Bush to Outlaw, we built that chassis in 03. It had a T53 in it. It had about 1,400 horse. And we had already started running Outlaw a little bit in Iowa tractor pullers. In the Iowa run a 5,800 pound class at that time. And we got invited a few times to come over and run that. We were somewhat competitive with that, with the turbine. So we run that. Then we hit a couple Outlaw hooks with it. And then we took that chassis and then we pretty well shoehorned the T55 in it. And then in 14, we made the new chassis. With the increase with the horsepower, we didn't quite have the frame. We was getting too much twist and hop in the front end, and it would just go across the track. In those years, we learned a lot of things. That was, the HP Firestone tire came into being during the time that we built that. The Humpco rear ends, which was definitely a major advantage on anything with high horsepower, which is, I imagine everybody that's running a component chassis today has one of those. They're quite the unit. So, and along the way, I've also been involved in building 3 or 4 other tractors over the years. So that's kind of where we're at. We're still running the single up till 2 years ago. The group just would not let the turbines break loose. They have now, but with the pandemic and the small amount of hooks, we just decided to stay where we're at. And then with casing going on, I don't think he needs 7,000 or 8,000 horsepower to take off the first time. So it's going to be more of a learning activity for him the next year or two with what he's got. I know he's going to climb off and go, they beat me again. So we're going to have to live with that.
Yeah. Once he gets used to it, he'll be starving for some more horsepower.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of the good things about interviewing an announcer is I don't have to ask a whole lot of questions, Kyle. He just answers them before I even ask them.
Yeah. I fully understand.
The way that we got into Outlaws was a friend of ours, John Burt. Kyle worked on that tractor a lot. I worked on that tractor a lot. He is now gone. But he started going down to Missouri and pulling with Outlaws. Come home one weekend, so I pulled with the Outlaws. And so we started looking at that. Matter of fact, I was thinking of that earlier today. My first hook, and it was still with the small D21. Rick Barrett and I loaded up and we went to Tulsa, Oklahoma. And that would have been a fall of 1991 would have been our first hook that I actually hooked with him, Ron.
Okay.
I think one of the first hooks in Nebraska for Outlaws was myself and 4 other guys had trackside promotions. We did Nebraska State Fair. We were the promoters for quite a few years. And I think we brought them to the state fair. I think that would have been the very first hook for the Outlaws, was Nebraska State Fair when trackside promotions brought them in.
Okay. I don't know if you've seen the most recent schedule, Fred, but it looks like we're going to be back at the Nebraska State Fair this year.
Yeah, Kurt had texted me this morning. I've been involved with the Nebraska State Fair since 1981 up till 2 years ago when another group came in. But I'd been with the State Fair tractor pull in one form or the other all of those years from way back in the early 80s. So it'd be kind of cool to be back out in Grand Island for 2022.
It will be. It will be awesome. Don Spoor, he was asking a question that you kind of answered already, Fred, about Kyle building another tractor for himself. You guys are going to stick with one tractor, I take it.
Yeah, because if you come out to the farm here and you start counting, there's 14 tractors laying around this place out here. So we don't need any more.
Okay. Now, Kaysen, have you joined with the Young Guns? Are you an official Young Gun now?
Yes, I am.
That's awesome. And you're 16, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you've driven the tractor around the yard, driven it and around to the trailer and such. So you feel confident, or you think you'll be nervous on your first hook?
It'll be nervous for the first time. I haven't actually started it yet, but that time's right around the corner.
Yeah, I've had the I was able to drive a couple of turbine tractors. Our buddy Cody Meyer let me drive a couple of times over the past several years, and it's a fun ride. I mean, you guys launch your tractor about the same way as he launches. He has a T53.
Yeah, it's going to launch pretty much the same. I'd say the one difference in ours versus theirs is how we've got the rear brakes set up on the tractor when we're holding it on the line. When we built this one in 14, I was always looking for a better way to try and hold it on the line and get it to launch better. So we've got a separate set of calipers back there. And if you get to looking at the tractor real close, there's 4 pedals down there. There's a lot of other mods have 2, a left and a right brake. Well, I've got left and a right brake. We've got the output brake, which you were familiar with, that holds the output shaft on the turbine. But then we've got a 4th pedal in there that goes out and runs a separate set of master cylinders and calipers to help hold it on the line. So we'll hold that. We'll hold the output brake. So that's probably the one difference between the two. The theory and the operation is the same with what you were trying to do. So
yeah, I recall I drove I think it's a jet lag tractor at Pierce, Nebraska in 18, and his quick tutorial, he said, just hold both brakes till it feels like, the engine's up as high as it's going to go and it feels like it's wanting to take off. And said, if it feels good, go ahead and hit that button. Of course, that button was the water injection on the top of the throttle. And it literally did kind of feel like hitting the nitrous button whenever you hit that water injection. You could feel it. Yeah.
The one difference between like the 55s and the 53s, you don't feel like you're hitting the nitrous button. Definitely the 53s really respond real well from it. The 55, you don't feel that much of a difference with it, but it does.
Yeah, on the 55, like we get into Texas, Ron, what it does is it holds our horsepower. It doesn't give us anything more, but it will hold it because temperature is our enemy, even more so than a reciprocating type of engine. So the cooler water makes a difference as the temperature goes up. If it's a real cool day, I think a few times, I don't know if Kyle even hit the button if it's been a chilly evening and so forth on that. But you were talking about Cody Meyer driving your tractor. I've made that offer to him several times to drive ours. The only problem is he can't fit in it. And right now we have the same situation with the new driver. We have to go back and start chopping things out so he can get in there.
Okay.
Cody got in there one day, but he couldn't do anything when he got there.
Yeah, he's a pretty big fella.
Yeah.
It's one of those. When we built this one, it was pretty much I sat there and we built it around me, and it's been the most comfortable tractor I've ever driven because of that. Now, Kaysen is bigger than I am, so that's one thing that we're working on is kind of rebuilding the seat and the whole control area a little bit to get it comfortable for him as well.
Gotcha. The turbines did really well at Cowtown a couple of weeks ago. Myers Tractors, I think, went 1 and 2 in the finals, and Fuhr was driving the winning tractor, believe it or not.
Well, maybe we'll get him converted to a turbine away from those Hemis.
I've been trying to start that rumor on social media. It hasn't taken off yet, but I'm surprised he hasn't chimed in on it.
Yeah.
That's unusual.
So Doug Meisinger is giving you some advice here, Fred. Can you see that on the screen?
Yeah, I seen that. Dougie, come on over. Bring your wrenches with you.
And Dale Bartels has got a message for you there too, Fred. Says you got enough content there that we could probably do 4 shows with you.
Sure. Useless and trivial information, Ron.
No, we love to hear it. We love to hear it. There's the Oklahoma Cowboy chiming in.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Dave Bennett, I was looking at that picture the other day. He had that photographer when we were down in Chickasha, Oklahoma, and took some pictures of Kaysen when he was probably only about 2.5 feet tall.
I think I remember that picture being taken.
Yeah. Oh, and then I've had the privilege of announcing with Kaysen as well. That was Mountain City, Kansas. You remember that, Kaysen?
Yeah, I remember that.
Talking about Grandpa's broken foot.
How old were you?
Like maybe 4, 5.
Let's see. We got Thomas Kimmons chiming in. He might be talking about Brian Fuller's tractor, I think, maybe.
Nope.
Dale Bartels. Does that mean anything to you, Fred?
Well, yeah, maybe, kind of. Yeah, we have a lot of yellow tractors.
Okay. Now, Kaysen the Young Guns is kind of blown up for us here. You know, we're not even a year into this, and it's really taken off. You know, we may have some situations this summer, some of the bigger pulls, where we may actually have autograph sessions and stuff. Are you pretty active on like Snapchat and different social media?
Yeah, I just recently joined Snapchat, on Facebook and Instagram and all that.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool tool to use to spread the knowledge of tractor pulling. You know, a lot of people that use those platforms have no clue what tractor pulling is. I would say a lot of them would probably think a tractor pull is hooking 2 tractors with a chain and trying to outpull each other that way. But
we've done that.
Yeah. And there was no alcohol involved at all, was there, Fred?
That was a long time ago, Ron.
Yep. I've done things like that with pickup trucks too, and there was no alcohol involved ever. So
yeah, you can peel them rear ends out pretty fast in them pickups.
Yeah, I split a guy's transfer case open one time doing that. Probably should have been doing it on asphalt in the middle of Main Street, but you know.
Yeah.
Small town USA, you can do those things.
Not anymore.
Kurt has a question here, Fred.
No. I try to stay away from as much communication as I can. I lived in that world, and we taught internationally. We did this type of thing all the time. Matter of fact, this type of thing, I'm working with an organization right now. Every week, I guess it's every 2 weeks, we get together for a meeting. So this is nothing new. So I just kind of stay with Facebook. That's about it.
Oh, well, Cody and Brian Fuller are listening right now. They're watching the show. So Brian, go ahead and chime in. We want to know if you're gonna ditch the Hemi for a turbine. Be interesting to know.
I'm sure his father and if his grandpa was still alive, they probably wouldn't be for that so much, because I've known them boys since day one.
So now the turbines have a reputation for being pretty much hands off. You don't have to do much to them between rounds or between hooks. I mean, what do you have to do besides put fuel in it from one pull to the next?
From one pull and next, really, definitely make sure you got batteries charged up. You know, it's kind of a joke around, but it's truly one of the things we need to do, because if we don't have enough power to get it spinning fast enough, quick enough, that's when we risk hurting them. They get hot, and then that's where things go bad. So if you stay up on top of that, normally you're going to be okay. As far between runs, there's not a whole lot. Now, after a certain amount of passes, we will rinse them out. It's basically we'll spin it up, and we just won't light it, and we'll dump soapy water through it, rinse it all out, spin it up again, spray water in there, just kind of cleans off the fins inside of there. So, you know, we're running in bad conditions, dirt and dust and
Right.
all of that. So helps kind of clean all of that. And that's probably one of the biggest things, you know. And then every, you know, few years or so, you know, we'll pull them off. We will run them on a dyno, just make sure that they're still doing what they're supposed to be doing in there. You know, the engine itself, there's not a whole lot of maintenance. Our maintenance comes more on the transmission driveline side of things. We went through a phase where we were having some transmission problems, and we found the cause of that. It wasn't really anything to do with the transmissions. It was more with how the output brakes were being used on them. It wasn't transmission. The transmission was having a problem, but it wasn't because of the transmission. It was things that we were doing otherwise. We got that fixed. Other things that we end up doing, that's really kind of the big things that we really have to worry about. The output brake that we run, we got to change brake pads in that every so often. Also kind of depends on how hard you are on that brake. And, you know, I'll tell a little story of what I expect this year is I expect to replace those pads a lot, just because of the nature of driving a vehicle with a clutch is as you're coasting up to stop, you press in on the clutch, you coast to a stop. This output brake is different. It's just like driving an automatic transmission in a car. You pull up stop sign, you hit your brake. If you hit it really hard, you're going to stop real fast. This is the same thing, but it will end up, you know, it's spinning real fast. You'll end up smoking some brakes. I know we're going to go through some of those just because I did the same thing as I was starting to learn to drive a turbine pulling tractor. So
Right now,
those are a few of the things that we end up checking throughout the year.
Now the output brake, this is what would happen if you hit that brake at full RPM when you were shutting down?
You're going to see a lot of smoke come out of the brake right behind the engine right there. You know, you're trying to stop 17,000 RPM with, you know, just a couple of brake calipers in there. And so it's going to smoke the pads. It's going to smell real bad, and no big deal. We'll replace
I came pretty close to hitting that brake the first time I drove one of Cody's tractors down at the Kansas Badlands. And I started to push it thinking maybe it was the clutch because I got about a 30-second tutorial before I jumped on the tractor.
Yeah.
So I was literally announcing the show, and Cody's like, get over here. And I still had my driving pants on and stuff from driving my pickup. And so it was pretty quick tutorial. And somebody told me that, no, that would have been bad if I would have hit that brake.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that I probably struggled the most with, moving from all the regular clutch style tractors that I'd driven to, okay, now my left foot, you're so used, you press the left foot in and you just kind of coast, and then you stop with your right. If you press down on it real quick, you're going to stop, you know, but I'll prepare, I'll try and ingrain some of that into somebody's head here a little bit. And, you know,
Case, you know, there's potential to become somewhat famous on Snapchat or Instagram and what's the other one? TikTok. If you start putting some videos on there, you might have some people wanting to get your autograph. You okay with that?
Yeah, I could be once I get used to it. I posted a few things, but it hasn't really blown up a whole lot.
Yeah, once the season gets going, you can get some more video up there. You probably heard of like Sydney Summers. She's really blown up on TikTok, posting a lot of her. She does a lot of technical stuff too, just explaining, you know, what's going on with the tractors and pulls and what it's all about, you know, because like I said, a lot of those folks that are on those platforms don't even know what it's about.
Yeah.
So Dave Bennett has a question here. Where do you think Kaysen will make his first competitive hook?
We'll let Kaysen say that.
That will be Ravenna, Nebraska, June 10th and 11th.
Man, right out of the box, first pull, huh? Good deal.
Yeah.
Let's see. Brian Fuhr talking about flame shows. I think he's kind of giving you turbine guys a hard time, I think, here.
Yeah, we never have put a flame show on any of them that we've had. We just never have.
No, there's a
Go
reason
ahead.
for it. If you back off on the throttle, you'll get a vacuum on that exhaust stack, and you'll take the flame in and put it on the nozzle ring, and then about $4,000 or $5,000 later, you're ready to go again.
Okay. Now, you were talking a minute ago, Kyle, about how crucial it was to start up and the batteries being fully charged, and I can remember back in the 70s. As a little boy watching like Art Arfons, our local track, and Robert Soyson and Bussy, and those guys actually had a support vehicle, which just basically was just a ton of batteries. And it seemed like getting them started back then was a chore. It took quite a while. I mean, when they come out on the track, you could probably went to the restroom and went and got a corn dog and came back before they could actually get them started. So what's changed from then to now that makes them easier to start?
I'm not 100% sure of what they were doing back then to now. In my experience, our 55 that we run, I think starts easier than a 53. 53 to me is a little more temperamental in the fact of watching temperatures and a little bit of your speed right there. Battery technology has gotten better, just the amperage that they can carry and run in a lot smaller battery. We run 36 volts on ours, three 12 volts in series. And, so to go back then, I'd say that's probably the one big difference. Other thing, I just don't know the quality of equipment and things that they had at that point, how good the starters were. Back then, and there's also various different ways to start them too. You've seen some that have used air in the past, hydraulic motors, and there's a lot of different ways. We like what we do with the onboard batteries right there. It's simple. I'm not reliant on a support vehicle or anybody else to get the tractor started. So
okay,
but yeah, it always seemed like, but when you saw a turbine tractor in the past, there was always a support vehicle attached to it. And part of it is weight. You'll see some of the guys with multiple turbines as well pull up with that. They'll move it around just so they don't have to carry as many batteries on board. So a few different reasons.
Greg Luceto says he's chiming in saying the hydraulic starters were a lot of work.
Yeah. There was the hydraulics, which some of the General Electric 64s had on them. Then 64, like Barron's run years ago with the 53 on top of it, that actually had a small turbine that started the larger turbine. So there was, instead of an electric starter, Ron, it actually had a small turbine. You'd start that turbine up, and then it would start the big one. And that was a pretty common setup for the General Electric T64s.
Okay. Brian Fuhr's saying that was a T64. His last, now going back here talking about Art Arfons, but I think that's what he's referring to was his last tractor was twin T64s, I believe. But
I think that's right.
His first tractor was, and I believe that was just a T53, if I remember right, when I was about 3 or 4 years old.
Yeah, an old L1, I think, essentially kind of what we started with in the very first final approach that we had.
Yeah, that I was so young, I was afraid of that tractor. It was one of the first ones that had the big fender on the back and had the big green monster on it. And I was 3 or 4 years old when that tractor came out. I actually still have the what would be called a hero card now, but it was just a black and white piece of paper had a picture of art in front of the tractor and all the technical information about the tractor on. If I can find it, I'll post it on here. It was pretty cool. And I still had that. I looked for that for several years, and I was in the attic one day looking around, and I had all this stuff. It was body shop stuff where I worked on my pickup, and there it was in the middle of that stuff. Why it was in there, I have no idea, but pretty cool to have that. I'll try to dig that up. I think we got Josh going to chime in here.
Hey guys.
Hey, Josh. What's up, buddy?
Oh, just another fun day.
Tom Kimmons had a question about Whitewright. Want to know if that was on you guys' schedule for this season.
As of right now, it is. Our plan right now, we probably won't have a complete full season, but we'll definitely be at a large majority of them. We're competing with some wrestling camps and some different activities like that are happening in this summer here. But no, we're going to be in Whitewright, Texas.
Okay.
Talk about locations. We plan on being in Colorado because we used to pull in Colorado and western Nebraska. So we plan to go out to that event.
Yep, that'll be a busy weekend. For the Outlaws in general, but I don't think the 74 mods are at the Nebraska State Fair, but we'll be out there in Colorado on Friday and Saturday, and then hot-footing it back to Grand Island for the State Fair on Sunday at 5. So that'll be another busy weekend. A lot of hooks on the schedule this year.
One thing about that they're not that far apart.
Yeah. There's I counted them a little while ago. I think we've got 45 different events this season. So it's going to be a busy one.
When you want to talk about a long distance one, pull out of Warrensburg, Missouri at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, and then hook at noon in Sturgis, South Dakota the next day.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a long walk right there.
Most of the time. Yeah.
Somewhat of a haul. Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. I seen another message from Mr. Bennett here. He's talking about the smaller turbine starting the bigger turbine. Yeah. Brian Fuhr has a lot of turbine knowledge here for some reason. All of a sudden, says the starter motor on a T64 was a JFS 100. Oh, Cody says, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because actually, I think we had a friend of ours that it made a garden puller out of one of those.
Yeah, I can recall seeing that. Was that what they put on the mini rods back in the day when they put a smaller turbine on? Was that motor?
Yeah, it could have been one. There's several different types. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Kason, I guess you're involved in wrestling as well, huh?
Yeah.
So any big events that you've competed in? Won any big matches?
I haven't won any big matches. Been trying to get to the state tournament in Omaha, but that hasn't happened yet.
I think they're golfing right now, Ron.
Aha, you're a golfer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kyle, you're a golfer as well?
Try to, I had to do something here since we're not tractor pulling as much. So yeah, try to go as much as we can.
Yeah. Taylor Van Beek invited me to go golfing one time, but I heard he likes to use the foot wedge. So
we golfed together at Wisner last year. So Taylor's a good golfer.
I'm giving him a hard time. I have golfed with some guys who like to use the foot wedge now and then, though. Josh, what's going on with you, buddy?
Oh, just got off work. I think I've got a couple of stations down there by Mr. Bennett. I think he likes to go down there on Tuesday evening and throw rocks at the intake. Seems like I've always got something to do down there about 5 o'clock on Tuesday. So I may have to sit and have a conversation with him about that next week.
Josh runs the Chickasha show, guys. That's a 2-day event this year. You guys going to make it to Chickasha as well?
It's one of those, we're just got to kind of see how school schedules start to kind of pan out a little bit in that, it's one I've got a question mark on for us for this year, but we've loved going down there in the past. And so it's definitely on the radar if we can make it work.
We'd love to have you for sure. trying to get you down last year. I understand it just wasn't able to work out, but hopefully we can make it happen this year.
Yeah, we'll see how it all shakes out here.
Yep.
So, Kaysen, when you were little, I mean, obviously you were going around to these tractor pulls when you were a young man. Who was driving when you were little? Do you remember Grandpa driving, or just Dad?
I don't remember him driving, but I always remember my dad.
Yeah, probably remember hearing Grandpa talking and Dad driving. Probably, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's usually what it was.
I got my first Outlaw show. I actually announced with Fred. I announced with you at.
I think we was at Macon, Ron.
Yep, Macon, Missouri.
Yep.
For some reason I had Bowling Green on the tip of my tongue, and I couldn't think of the. Yeah, that was at Macon, and then I announced with Dave later on that season. At
West Liberty.
Mound City, Kansas. West Liberty. That's right. I did go to West Liberty. Geez, I forgot about that. West Liberty, Iowa.
It's funny you say that. Funny you say that, Ron. My first Outlaw show, I heard Fred announcing as well. It was here in Chickasha. Fred was announcing the mod class because Dave was driving one of them.
Oh, yeah, that was a cluster. Well, let's see.
I remember that one.
Let's see. Well, see, Kevin was, and then we had Kevin driving, I forget whose farm all tractor, might have been Bracken's or somebody's.
It was.
Brackett's.
Yeah.
And Dave was running the sled.
Yeah. Yep. I remember that as well.
Yeah.
There's always some strange stuff happens in Chickasha for some reason. They're in Whitewright.
Then there was pickup puller. He was driving one of the John Deeres. So yeah, we had several uncertified drivers at that one event that one year.
Now this is the second comment I've seen here. I mean, Jerry Setter said someone had a pair of turbines in the back of a pickup at Cowtown. And Thomas Kimmons said the same thing, but he said it was Brian Fuhr's truck. I don't know. Is that you guys heard anything about that?
Nah, we're out of the loop.
Nope.
I don't know whose truck it was, but I can verify it. I've seen it driving away.
Really?
Yes.
Very interesting. Yeah, Thomas said he thinks it's Brian's. I don't know. We'll see. Those guys did well at Cowtown with those two turbines at 1 and 2. Yeah, there it's the rumor mill is churning up here.
The one thing you'll notice that we noticed when we had a couple 3 years in there when we run the championships and was running in the top 2, top 5. Even the other guys, we could walk up to a track and say, okay, the turbines are going to do better tonight on this than the reciprocator motors. And then there's times we walked up there and said, we're toast. You know, so they operate completely differently.
Yeah,
Fred, you mentioned that point. What do you look for on a track to know when the turbines are really going to do well versus the automotive styles?
Probably have to ask Kyle Ladd. He's more on that night.
Really? So a few years ago when the horsepower was a little similar between all the different combinations, our tractor or the turbine tractors, our tractor, Barron's tractor, we'd get on that stuff that you'd step on and feel like bubble gum, you know, the really tight bubble gum. We did really well in Wisner for several years. Rock Valley was kind of some of the same way. Now they've made some changes to their track. For across the classes, I think it's made it better. For us, it's just made it different for us in there. But there was certain places like that you could walk on it, and if you could just kind of kneel it up in a ball, and if it felt like bubble gum, we were gonna do pretty good. The biggest difference with that is when we come off the line, we pretty much have to come off the line about as hard as we can. You know, think of driving something with a turbocharger on it, having to spool it up. We're essentially kind of doing the same thing, getting the RPM up on the engine, holding it like you talked about, Ron, as long as you can, and then kind of let it go. Well, those bubble gum sticky type of tracks right there allowed those tires to just kind of instantly hook, and we could take that power and run with it right away. Now, piston motors kind of, you know, they had the ability to do the same type of thing, but just the way the power got applied, I don't think we put it down quite as violent on those tracks, and it worked. Now we'd get into some other places and it just, where you really have to drive it out of the hole, we're going to struggle. So it goes back to a little bit of what I was talking about with the different brakes that I was talking about. I'll stand on that pedal, till I'm 75, 80 feet out of the hole and try and kind of slow it down and hold it back as much as we can. So that's kind of the difference in those tracks. And a lot of it, and this is what I've been working with Kason on the last couple of years, as we go out and walk around on a track. It's like I can feel it in my feet as you put a heel in it, something like that. You walk on it and you're like, okay, this is what I need to do. Those are the things that I'm trying to teach.
Right.
And it's hard until you walk on it, until you sit in the seat and open the throttle and go, oh, okay, that's what that does on this. So
back when our horsepower was a little closer, and of course we've fallen behind. Years back, the way the guys loaded the sleds was lighter on the takeoff, which that helped us. We didn't spin so hard. We would catch the track better, and we'd get a lot of momentum. And if they had a floating finish, if we could roll 350 feet in the old days, we could get on the other side of them. Well, today we statically got that sled a lot heavier on the takeoff, so that's tougher for us. But yeah, we've been talking, well, we try to stay within that 300 feet. And again, that actually helps us somewhat, because the other guys now can get out there once they get rolling. So it's a strategy. And then of course and you guys know this, you followed it the last couple of years. The tire technology has just really changed. When I bought the first set of HPs, we put the Humpco in. We won Ravenna, Nebraska 2 nights in a row. Well, I don't know if you can give an HP tire away today in a mod class because of what they've done with them and the horsepower. And of course, we're probably running a little too much lug anymore for the horsepower. So, just over, say, a 15-year period, stuff's really changed. In the last 5 years, it's really changed on the tires.
Yeah, and talking about tires, that's going back to when I was a kid, watching the turbines back then. They still had the full lug tires, and the Firestones on the Green Monster. And I remember you could literally feel those lugs beating the ground because the engines were so quiet compared to the other tractors. You could feel those lugs beating the ground whenever they would go by you on the track. It was pretty cool, but. One thing you were just alluding to there, Kyle, is about the launch. It's pretty well known in the turbines. The launch is just it's all or nothing when you take off. So you're saying you can actually kind of ease it out there using the brakes?
You can a little bit. It's not as evident as a piston motor going out there at half throttle and then cracking it the rest of the way open and front end comes up in the air. Ours is a little more invisible to say. I can tell a difference in the seat, but it's still not the equivalent. If we try driving them out like that, more than likely we're not going to get the RPM back up where we need, because those tires are locked in. There's a point there we need them spinning a little bit to keep the RPM up on the engine, because the thing is, it really truly is just air blowing through a fan blade that's going back through and turning the rear tires. So if you're locked in, you've got to kind of overcome that, or you're going to need some power to get it done. And so it's a trade-off. The other trade-off to that is you get on a really hard track, we can move weight back, and those guys got their engines sitting out there, and hey, the front end's down on the ground, we can move it back, get the front end in the air and go. So there's pros and cons to both sides of it. And through the course of a season, you see them play out.
Mm-hmm. And we were talking earlier about the horsepower difference and keeping the combination you have now till Kason gets comfortable with it, gets used to it. You guys are kind of behind the curve now. The horsepower game is really, the Cameron Neve's new tractor. He's making close to 3,200 per motor, which puts him out there at 6,400.
Yeah. And the blower technology, the fuel system technology, all of that stuff is just come along. We're with the single, we're just kind of at the limit of what that motor can do and keep it livable. And even it's at the limit of what we can do with it. So yeah, they did change the rules to where, okay, we could run 2 of what we've got. You go ahead and you turn the one down that we've got a little bit and match it with that. And it's an interesting combination. Unique thing there is parts availability and some of those things are things that we deal with that as well now. Whereas piston guys, they make more pistons, they make more connecting rods, heads, all that stuff. The turbine world, it's a different world of trying to get parts and good parts. You don't put junk in them. You need to make sure what you have in there is really good stuff. And
So where do you get parts? I mean, you're talking military. I mean, there's not really an aftermarket supply of parts for a turbine.
So the guys at Nebraska Gas Turbine has helped us a lot in our career with turbines, and those guys, they've been great to work with. And so, that's who we end up doing our business with, and has been able to help us through our entire career running turbines.
And what was the plan, or what is the plan if you change the combination? What do you guys have in mind?
Well, really, the combination you could go to is a twin 55 type of setup, turned down just a little bit, even lower than what they're rated at, with it, to make sure that you don't want a combination that is too dominant, but yet you want something that, okay, if the blower motors start producing more power, which we know they're not going to go backwards.
Sure.
That we have, you've got some leeway, you've got some headroom in there to turn some of that up. So if we were to stick in the turbine world, that's what we would have to do. I'm not really interested in doing something different. There's plenty of Hemi combinations out there. Ulmers and Paulsons are running the Chevy flag out there and doing very well at it as well. And so it's nice to have some variety in there, but we've got some challenges in being able to do that.
Yeah, variety is definitely good. Keeping the Chevys, keeping some turbines in there. I mean, as much as we like the Hemis and how they sound and how they run, we don't want to see every single tractor be twin Hemis.
Right. It's amazing the number of people that will come up and talk to you at a show and say, hey, this thing is, I've never seen anything like it. And you spend time and you explain it to them, and it brings them back. And, that's part of why we still love going out and going to the polls and being engaged in the organization, is it brings something different to the crowd at an outlaw show.
Yeah. And then, another young gun that I anticipate seeing more of in 2022 is Ella Rursch with the V12 Packard. I think we're going to see her. Saw her quite a bit last season. They really got, Darren and Ella got fired up and came to some hooks, and I think they're planning on coming to more.
Which is great to see. Darren's been a longtime supporter as well, and his business has done very well, and kind of, that's taken priority over some tractor pulling in the past. But no, it's really good to see them out there and being able to make some good passes. So it'll be exciting.
Kaysen, is your mom nervous?
Yeah. I've been told that there's going to be a lot of Xanax in her future.
Grandpa, are you nervous?
No.
Not at all, huh? You've got full confidence in Kaysen.
It's like this. I told him if he tore it up, he's done for the year. He's back on tractor rides with Grandpa.
Well, just remember, Kaysen, it's a turbine. They hardly ever break. So hammer down every single time.
I can't say that. That 5 years that we made every hook in 5 years, I don't even want to say how many times I had to go to Wisconsin and get parts for the profab before we figured out what our problem was. So, yeah, stuff breaks.
Yeah, I did throw that caveat in there, the drivetrain parts, but the turbine itself, you should be okay.
Yeah, if you keep all the safeties working, and we're redundant on that. If they let go now, we lost an engine in Ravenna several years ago, and nobody had a clue that we lost an engine. They always talk about them all blowing up and everything, and I don't think anybody knew it except you, Kyle.
Yeah. Everybody thought it just shut off mid-track, but there wasn't a whole lot left in the hot section.
You had one expire.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it does happen. It does happen.
Sometimes people will ask, when you see, I know on the T-53s, you'll see them popping out the big exhaust stack. I think if I remember right, Cody had told me that was kind of like a waste gate on a turbo for the turbines. It was kind of relieving excess pressure. Is that?
It's a compressor stall. Yeah. The pressure in it just builds up and it kind of stalls there for a second until pressure equalizes a little bit.
And it might be a little too much water.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. A lot of times what you'll see is you're starting to kind of get on the edge of too much water alcohol in it. And that'll be.
Now, explain to people what the water does in a turbine, the water injection.
The water just, it helps cool the air that's coming into the engine, make it a little more dense. So if you start getting too cold in there, it just doesn't like it. Or you also start just getting too much water in it as well, and it stalls.
While you're on that topic, Ron, Kyle, especially you'll see it out of your tractor and the other turbines more in the evening sessions when it's starting to get dark. What looks like an ember or a spark coming out of the exhaust. Do you want to tell everybody what that is?
It's just a little carbon buildup, and where I was talking about trying to make sure we keep blades and stuff clean. I think it was before you were on here. We talked about washing them out a little bit, but it's more just some carbon buildup and blowing out the stack. Nothing. It's not parts falling apart or coming apart or anything like that out of them.
You literally just mix some Dawn dish soap water up and push through those turbines?
Yep.
Huh.
Mix it up in a 5-gallon bucket and spin it up and dump it in the intake and watch bubbles come out the other end.
And the mud.
Make sure and try that on your pickup truck tonight, Ron.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. Jerry Setter's asking, and I don't recall what LD Nation had on his last turbine, as far as what motors he had. You guys recall?
Is that
Indian Outlaw?
The one with the twins on, I think they were JFTD 12s. I think that's what was on his last one. He's had 64s on it in the past. He's had T55. He's had several different combinations, but I think that's what that last one was.
Okay. And talking about tire technology, you touched on that a little bit, Kyle, a few minutes ago. And I know that the Ulmers, they've actually, after putting some Pro Pullers on there this last season, have gone to lightening that tractor up, try to get more weight on the front, because he put on a pretty good show at a few pulls last year, pulling the front end way high. And I mean, it still worked for him. He won some of those events where he pulled that front end way high, but they're changing that tractor, how it's set up, specifically because of how well those tires are hooking.
Yeah, their combination was a little bit older chassis that it had worked for them for years, so there wasn't much of a need. But yeah, the new tires, they're definitely changing the game. You're getting a lot better traction, a lot better bite. And with them and the way their 3 motors are set up on there, they didn't have that movable weight that I was talking about to be able to get it to the nose.
Yep.
So yeah, they're going through a lot to try and get some weight up there.
So you guys have any, what's the best advice you could give to Kaysen this season? Fred?
Let's
start with Fred, Kyle. Sorry.
Okay.
It's all going to be in getting the tractor started and learning the brakes and the output brake. That's going to be probably the biggest hurdle. And the 55 is a lot easier than the 53 because the 53s you used to have to sit there and watch the temp gauge, and if it was getting too hot, you had to let off the fuel and keep cranking and let the temp get back down. Where the 55 Kyle, I think you just smash the starter and it starts.
Yep, it's pretty simple.
Kyle, your advice for Kaysen?
I've got all kinds of advice. I think about it every day, and one of my concerns is there's so much that I just inherently know and do. You know, the feet automatically do this and the hands automatically do that. But really the biggest thing is don't panic. You know, try and think through some scenarios in your head. And he and I will have conversations. We've had some conversations about different scenarios, but don't panic. Don't get in a rush. The ride's going to be smooth. And, you know, once you get hey, the rest of it's fun. You know, that's the point where I always worry. When I hit the button, is it going to turn over? If I hit the next button, are the igniters going to go off? If I get a fire in it, we got some heat. The rest is fun, you know, so don't panic. Take your time.
Kaysen, you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
He's ready. You're just a little over 2 months away from Ravenna, buddy. Well, we're going to be watching, and you know you're going to be live on Outlaw Pulling TV as well, so you're going to have a big audience watching you. No pressure.
No pressure.
Just remember, Kaysen, nothing money can't fix.
Oh yeah.
Kyle, you going to be manning the barbecue grill at Ravenna?
Most likely. So better stop on over.
One of the great benefits of having a turbine, right? You don't have to work on anything afterwards for the most part.
For the most part, usually, you know.
We got a story on that one time. We were in Mound City, Kansas, made a hook up there. We were running 3 or 4 days. And us and Barons pulled our tractors up, and Donnie Nelson was over next to us, and he was rolling out the bearings in his. And he walked over, sauntered over like Donnie does, you know. And we were barbecuing, and he says, "Could you guys at least put them in the trailer so I don't have to look at them while I'm working on mine?"
That's awesome.
We said, "I'll take a break and come on over and have a burger with you."
Well, we'll be looking for you guys at Ravenna. Kaysen, good luck in this 2022 season. Fred, thanks for coming on. Appreciate all your advice and things you've helped me with getting started with the Outlaws. And Kyle, look forward to seeing you as well. So thank you guys very much for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Yep, it's been a good one. Enjoyed talking to you guys tonight.
Same here.
All right, guys. Have a great night. We'll see you in June.
Be safe.
Bye.
See you guys.
So you missed a pretty good one, man.
It sounds like
late, you know, but pretty good one.
Like I wish I'd have got to get on here. Like I said, one thing about working in the oil field, sometimes you have to work at hours you don't particularly want to.
You know, that's a cool thing about talking to an announcer is he was answering my questions before I asked them, you know, so I got to save my vocal cords a little bit here. But yeah, great to talk to Fred, and 3 generations of pulling right there on the show tonight. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And
awesome.
Jason, I think, is on vacation again, Josh, if you can believe that.
I seen he said he was in Florida or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's down there terrorizing them. I guess Wisconsin threw him out for a week or so. I'm not sure, but
yeah, always on business, you know. Down in Florida. So sure. Jerry, sorry I didn't get to that question you had about the Mitas tires with them. Pratt & Whitney JD12. I'm assuming you're talking about motors on the Indian Outlaw.
yeah, Jerry asked about the Mitas there. I'm sure that somebody's tried it, but I don't know of anybody that's running them currently.
Yeah, I'm not certain on a turbine. Yeah, we had I can't remember where you came in here, but Josh, but we got to talking about the older when turbines first come out and pulling, and some of that history. And then Cody Myers is watching, and he was him and Brian Fuller kind of chiming in on the questions that we weren't answering. So thank you guys for watching tonight. And
yeah, I came in during the Art Arfon's discussion about the original tractor that went on to be the Dragon Lady that Dusty drove, and Art running the twins and all that.
I'll have to. I scanned that hero card that I had from him. I was little. I'm sure my dad got it. It was just a black and white copy of on a piece of paper, but I still have that, and I scanned it on my scanner, so I've got it in my computer somewhere. It may be on an external hard drive, but pretty cool to have that history. I'll dig that out and maybe put it on for next week's show.
Funny little side story on him. Mike Galloway was telling me about it. I guess, Art was always testing and trying different things with different motors. And this may have been for the four-wheeler that Tim drove, if you remember that.
Yep.
The jet-powered four-wheeler.
Jet-powered, yeah.
Yeah. They, I guess we're doing some testing, had an engine on a test stand there at Art's house and fired everything up. And I'm not sure if they hit the afterburner on a jet or what happened, but the story goes that he got to buy everybody's windows for about a 3-block radius there.
Oh, wow.
They hit something late at night and took out a few windows. And so he got to buy some windows for his neighbors.
Probably some apologies as well for waking everyone up.
Why, sure.
Gotta make you sit up in bed. Lauren says Jason is probably selling beer down there.
Probably, Lauren. Him and Santa Claus running around down there with that remedy beer.
Did he bring any to Cowtown? Did you see any?
I have yet to see any, period. Not Cowtown, not Texas. I've seen pictures. Is all I've seen.
I thought for certain he'd bring some to Cowtown.
He's got that. He showed us a bottle or two there a couple of weeks ago. I think that was just a Bud Light bottle. He put his own label on or something. I'm not sure, but.
Well, I can attest that it is real. I tried it last May in Dubuque. It is real. It is a thing. So, buddy, how's Chickasha coming along? You ready?
It's coming. I was talking to the guys at the fairgrounds today. We're making plans. It's gonna be laid out just a little bit differently. Nothing too major. They're doing some renovations out there, adding a couple of new buildings, and so some things will change just a little bit. But it's going to be a good show. I think we've got all the plans finalized now. It's just making it all happen. You can attest to that. No shortage of things to do getting ready for a pull.
Man.
So,
oh boy, yeah. I'm still working on stuff.
Yeah. And between that and getting ready for the season and traveling and announcing and
we just
all kinds of fun things to do.
We just added another hook, by the way, the Nebraska State Fair. It's a Sunday right after Colorado.
Oh, wow.
So I think I counted real quick before the show, there's 45 hooks tentatively on the schedule right now. So
that's a full season.
It is a full season. Yeah. So, all right, buddy. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close it out here. We'll finish with a video, but thanks for coming on. It was a good show tonight. I enjoyed talking to the Petch boys.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get to be on here for the whole thing next week.
All right. All righty.
All right. See you guys.
You're attesting to that right now. You're telling everybody.
I said maybe. There's always that key word in there.
All right.
Get old Mr. Bennett to quit throwing rocks to them intakes. That'll help me much.
Yeah, he's ornery cuss, that Bennett is. So.
He is.
So somebody said it's 70-some days, 70-ish days till Ravenna, counting them down. So
you see Robert's question down there?
Last weekend, all the different pullers.
Wanting to know with all the different associations coming together, what standardized rules package you went with.
Oh, I can't remember what it was on the scale. We did random checks on the fuel. Lord, I can't remember what it is. Jerry, if you're still watching, help me out. I can't remember what it is on the scale that we had in there for rules. Yep, Robert, I honestly don't remember. If I said it, I think I know what it is, but if I said it, it might be wrong, and I don't want to put out the wrong info. So Jerry might be. Jerry, if you're still watching, what was the fuel? What was the allowance on the fuel and water there? So, all right. Jerry might still chime in there, or Mr. Aldrich might chime in as well if he's watching. So we'll close out with some video. I want to thank everyone for watching. Big thanks to Case IH, title sponsor of the Outlaws. And we will see you next week.
See you.
Thanks, Josh.
Bye.
Thermal Thunder out of Belford, Nebraska.
Petch, Thermal Thunder.
Here it comes.
Now, some folks might.
The big old rocks